Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lawn Care CEO Podcast, Season 3, where lawn care guys learn to become leaders. My name is Dan Rouse. I'm the head coach of the Lawn Care CEO. And on today's episode, I'm going to do a thing that you're not supposed to do in polite, diplomatic conversation. And that is talk a little bit about myself and our Lawn Care CEO Podcast and how we got here and what in the world is a non-lawn care guy doing a Lawn Care CEO Podcast. The gall of me to think that I can do this, and maybe, but more importantly, why you really, really should care about the things going on at Lawn Care CEO, because they're for you. They're designed for you. And so that's our our topic for today. And I guess without further ado, let's go. So welcome back. So one of the things that I've come to discover is that when you guys are busy, we are slow. And when you are slow, we are busy. So honestly, December, January, February, very, very busy times here at the Lawn Care CEO. Not that that matters, but I'm just letting you know that's the reason why we've been gone for an extended period. So sincere apologies to our tens of listeners. Hopefully you were busy applying all the lessons that we learned from our last season of the Lawn Care CEO Podcast in your businesses during the off season. As I said before, the most important season for a lawn care business is probably the off season, where you're going to make your business a lot better. By the way, little side note, this season, I'm going to do my best to rep lawn care businesses that I connected to and care about. Today, I'm repping the Green Team. Shout out to Derek and Kyle, Roanoke, Virginia, Charlotte, North Carolina, an incredible fertilization weed control company. So if you want to be, if you want to give me free swag, I'll rep you too. Just want to be like letting everybody know about the great companies that are out there in the crisscrossing across the country. Okay, so to the topic today. Part of it is because some of you are new to the Lawn Care CEO Podcast, and for the tens of listeners, it's probably just because I think you'll enjoy the story and find value and root in what we're doing, and it'll all kind of make more sense what we're up to and why we're trying to do what we're trying to do. And so I'm going to tell the story of how we ended up here at Season 3, our 30-something episode. I'm not sure exact numbers. And I think it's a story worth telling, and one that I think in the end, you'll see why I say I think you're going to care about it. In 2011, my business failed. Many of you don't know this, but I was a business owner. I ran a small private high school, and the problem was I was selling private school education to middle income families. The education was amazing, but they couldn't pay their bills. And so I landed in a place no entrepreneur wants to be. And I had to close my business, had to close my doors. I had to call my students and their parents who loved the school. Still to this day, I have students who will say that was the best educational experience we'd ever had. They loved it. I loved them. And it was a real depressing little moment in my life. And Providence or, however I ended up there, my brother-in-law ran a company called Infusionsoft. Now, Infusionsoft at the time in 2011 was revolutionary because they were an all-in-one sales and marketing software for small business, which was now there's Service Autopilot and all these other companies that are doing it. But literally at the time when, Jonathan Potoshnik was just a little knee-high to a grasshopper, they'd started this kind of idea of marketing automation all the way back in 2007. When they were kicking this off. This is my brother-in-law. He invited me into the company. He said, hey, your entrepreneurial thing didn't work out. Why don't you come sit at a desk and answer phones? You could be like the customer service guy. And I'm at the time, this is 15 years ago. So I thought, how nice will it be? And maybe some of you have had that experience. Have you ever had the experience where you're just, it seems like it would be easier rather than being a business owner, just to be an employee? You're like, let me show up at 9, let me go to bed at 5, do what I'm told, and not think about it until 9 the next morning. That's kind of where I was in my life because I'd been through this trauma of closing a business. It was really hard. Well, little did I know, I'd stumbled into something that was really magical. In 2011, our little company was about to attempt I shouldn't say little. We were 150 employees, more or less. They'd been growing like gangbusters from 5 million in just 3 or 4 years ago. It was about a 40% growth rate year over year. I can't remember the exact details, but one thing I do remember is that the year 2011, when I showed up in August of 2011, the goal for the company was 26 million in revenue. And the reason I remember it is because it was this moment where everyone was rallied around this goal. See, what I didn't know when I went to Infusionsoft is that it was not corporate. Okay. So like there's corporate. And I said, this is my first corporate job. I would tell my colleagues, they were like, no, this is not corporate. And so I'd fallen into this incredible culture and big banners with core values across the top of the roof line, purpose, mission. Like it was just such a well-run company. In fact, one of the future investors of their Series C would say this was the best run company he'd seen since LinkedIn. It was an amazing, amazing company. And I'll tell a story to kind of illustrate it. So we had this $26 million goal. There was green t-shirts printed with a big word believe across the front, and on the back 26 in big letters saying 26 million. There were company meetings where we'd rally around and guys are standing on chairs like, let's go get it, right? Sales rallies and energy. It was electric. Like it was the culture. Honestly, wasn't the facility. Don't imagine nice facilities. We literally were on an open field that had spilled over into a sports like training facility. We'd taken over the sports training facility because our little office got too big. So we went into the neighboring facility. And we had to like dodge golf balls because we were right next to this golf course. And in order to park, we had to like walk by the golf course, and one guy got hit in the head with a golf ball. We thought it was really funny. There was never a cold toilet seat, right? Because there weren't enough bathrooms. So toilet seats were always slightly warm. Like nothing about the environment was perfect, but the culture itself was pretty magical. And the goal was 26 million. Our CEO, Clayton Mask, at the time had said, hey, listen, we're going to give you a bonus and some extra days off at Christmas if we hit our $26 million goal. And I am like wide-eyed at all of this because I'm so intrigued by the way that they're leading it. They launched a program that fall called Elite Entrepreneurship, which was their way of teaching the entrepreneurs that they served how to build a company like this, a company that was at the same time on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list and a top 20 great place to work in the country. It was magical. Well, on December 3rd, I still remember the date, Clayton Mask, the ever optimistic Clayton Mask, got up in front of the company meeting, the all hands meeting. And for the first time, and maybe the last time I'd ever seen Clayt defeated. And he said, hey guys, we're not going to hit our goal. I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to happen. I don't want you to go spend, Christmas bonus money you're not going to get because we're not going to be able to afford it. And I don't want you to plan vacation days that we are not going to have. I'm so sorry to say it. We're going to get close, but we're not going to get there. And I just want to let everyone know, even if we hit December and had the best December ever. I'm like wearing the Believe t-shirt, and the room was just kind of deflated. Above Clayt's head was a core value banner that said, we do what we say we'll do. Right. It was like, wah, wah. And it was hard. It was sad. I was like bummed. The whole room was bummed. And then I saw something unexpected. And because I was new to the corporate world, I didn't know how rare it would be. But since then, I've discovered it's a very rare phenomena happened. What happened was, after the meeting, a core group of employees, not necessarily leaders, but just a core group of employees stood up and they V-lined it for Clayt. And I'm a bit nosy, so I followed them, but I was brand new. I was like a rookie. And I just followed them because I wanted to hear what was going on. And they went to Clayt and they said, how much are we short? And Clayt said, listen, you have to understand, we can't sell more software because we can only get a month's worth of revenue. They said, I know, but how much are we short? And he said, $350,000, even if we hit our targets. And they said, Clayt, can we try? Now, can you imagine that moment where one of your employees came to you when you had announced that we weren't going to be able to hit a goal. And by the way, it was not because they were going to get a Christmas bonus. It was not because they needed extra days off. In fact, the reverse ended up being true. They put in extra days. It was because they believed in the cause, because they were core value fit guys, because they cared about creating an incredible culture, and they were bought in. They were all in. They owned it almost as much as the owners did. In fact, in this case, a little bit more. A meeting was called. We invited the entire company. I, because I was brand new and didn't have anything to do, was put in charge. And we kicked off this thing. Out of the 150 employees at the time, we probably had 125 volunteer time to participate in what would eventually be called the Implementation Accelerator, where we did a big marketing boot camp at the end of the year. It was literally Christmas themed because we did it over basically what was the entrepreneur's Christmas break. Long story short, $26,005,000 was our final count. And here this little company did what they said they would do. And out of thin air, simply because of culture, simply because people bought into what we were doing, we created $355,000 out of thin air. It was amazing. And as sort of a leadership nut my whole life, I was the kid in high school who, this is probably a little bit more than you need to know, but I slept on a waterbed in high school. So picture me, 18 years old, 17 years old, on my waterbed in high school. This is all my respect is gone. Anybody who has any decency is going to disrespect me after this, but literally I'm sitting on my waterbed and I would read Dr. Seuss's "Oh, the Places You'll Go" over and over and over again. Literally, congratulations, today's your day. You're off to great places. You're off in your way. You got brains in your head. You got feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. I just memorized it because I would just loved principles and ideas and dreams. And I would listen to Stephen Covey or other great leadership speakers. I'd kind of had it sparked for me in high school when a leadership development guru guy had shown up, and I just kind of fell in love with the idea of understanding and studying leadership at large. So when I saw this manifested at Infusionsoft, it was incredible. And from that point forward, 2011, I was just all in on learning how they do it, understanding the craft of how to build a great company that's both highly productive and creates incredible culture. Long story short, I'll finish my story in a minute, but let's now rewind to 1996. In 1996, my business partner, Aaron Suttonfield, had started a lawn care business. He was a college dropout and from very early on understood I am not built for scholastic life. What I'm really built for is entrepreneurship, building a business. And, I wish he was here to tell his own story, but I'll tell it briefly, right? He did what most people do when they start lawn care businesses. They get a ton of equipment. They want to do fancy landscape installs. They do a little bit of everything. They're a jack of all trades, but a master of none. The business isn't really making any money. The wife is frustrated, the whole gamut, right? We could tell the whole story of the stages of small business growth. Everything from it was a side hustle to it was the main hustle to doing every aspect of lawn care. And right about the same time, interestingly enough, right around 2011, 2012, Aaron was turned on to a man by the name of Jonathan Matoshnik, who had Lawn Care Millionaire, I think was the name of his podcast. And he ran the service. He was the founder of Service Autopilot and ran Service Autopilot's Academy at the time. And Aaron had come to attend the Academy. Fed up, literally got to a point where he's Googling how to run a good lawn care business. He's how many years into it at that point? Almost 20 years into it at that point, and still doesn't feel like he knows how to run a good lawn care business. He's like, dude, what do I do? Well, he literally listens to Jonathan Matoshnik, goes home, sells some equipment, and goes all in to transition from a full service lawn care business to a niched lawn care business that did fertilization and weed control only. He simplified, he systematized, he automated to the point that when I met him in 2022 or 3, he was working 3 or 4 hours in his business. He was a 1 point something million dollar lawn fertilization weed control business and had it dialed in beautifully. And his life was completely transformed. Well, Aaron and I got invited in 2022 or 3. For some reason, the math stopped. I think it's 22. I got invited in 2022 to one of the clients. So we started teaching I started teaching entrepreneurs how to do what we did in Infusionsoft, especially companies that are $1 million to $10 million. I started teaching them. We had groups of 10 or 15 that would roll through $1 million CEOs of all different varieties. Well, one happened to be a lawn care guy. And that lawn care guy, 7 or 8 years later, calls me up. I'm now have my own agency. I'm doing coaching and consulting, teaching these principles to all kinds of different companies, not particularly lawn care. And this lawn care guy calls me up and says, hey, I'm taking over Jonathan Potoshnik's, academy, the Service Autopilot Guide Academy, the very one that Aaron had attended all those years ago. And Dan, would you take what you've taught me at Infusionsoft and would you come teach it to this group? And so Aaron, because he's friends in that same Service Autopilot circle, and me show up at this event together. And needless to say, it was love at first business conversation. So we hit it off really well. And the joke is always that in a romantic Wilmington, North Carolina beach house, we came up with this idea. And here was the idea. It stemmed from 2 principal thoughts. Principal thought number 1 was we were doing group coaching and training at the time, and we just didn't believe that people were taking it home and implementing. We just didn't believe that the medicine was getting to the patient. In fact, one client that I'd worked with, when I asked him how much he'd spent on different courses and programs and groups over the last 10 years, he said he's probably spent over $500,000 on groups and coaching. And I'll just say, if you met his business at the time, it was not a $500,000 of investment into that business, right? Like there was some problem with the fact that the business itself wasn't receiving the medicine that it needed. So that was idea number 1, is that somehow we need to figure out how to scale and really work one-on-one with clients who didn't have the education that I'd had at Infusionsoft and all those years of experience, and didn't have the experience that Aaron had of actually building a business that's successful and streamlined and automated. And so it's how do we get that medicine to them effectively, and how do we do it at scale? So we started jamming on that idea. And as we started thinking that through, the question then becomes for us as a company, if we're going to scale one-on-one coaching, we need some methodology. We need some way of doing it in a way that is guaranteed, that's actually for sure going to deliver the result. And so we sat down and we set a mission for ourselves to create a shareable coaching model that actually helps companies thrive. And the model started to really solidify in my mind when this happened. I was chatting with my wife, and my wife's a RN. She's a labor and delivery nurse. And I like to joke that we kind of have the same job, where she delivers babies into the world and I deliver businesses into health and profit, right? It's we're tons of pain, tons of struggle, but similar happy result, which, by the way, you just get a business that then hopefully is healthy enough that you're going to have to raise for the rest of your life, right? Anyway, so I was chatting with my wife. We were walking in the forest in the Arizona mountains, I still remember. And I turned to her and I go, man, I think we kind of have the same job. I think that business building, what it means to be a healthy business, especially if we're thinking about it for a particular industry, that it's a lot like medicine. That at the end of the day, it literally is just it's very similar to medicine in the following ways. Number 1, Like just like our bodies, everybody is the same, but also unique. So you have lungs, I have lungs. You have eyes, I have eyes. You have a brain, I sometimes do. So everybody's the same, but everybody is also unique. I have allergies. This is why I can never do lawn care. I have allergies, seasonal allergies. My torso is too short. My legs are too long. Right. So it's like my body is different and I'm a different weight. I'm a different height. It's a little bit different. Right. And that just like every small business is unique. Like, even though you have marketing, I have marketing, you have whatever, you have production, you have a CRM, I have a CRM, but everyone, even though they're the same, they're also different. And so even as much as business is business, at the end of the day, in order for us to treat a patient, we would have to understand individually that patient. Sometimes going to a group course, and even here we are doing a one-to-many thing, even a podcast can sometimes be bad advice if not applied correctly, right? It's sort of like going to WebMD and going, and every time it's like, you have scurvy, like inner symptoms. It's like, oh no, like, I don't know. Or going into a waiting room at a doctor's office, the doctor walks out and says, all right, everyone share your problems with me, and I'm going to give some generalized solutions and send you all home. It's like, that isn't enough to maybe get where we want to go. And so, my Aaron and what would eventually become Miranda and Sam and these other coaches, we started to ask the question, what is the science behind? What is the science behind lawn care business growth and health? And, some of my early coaching clients are listening to this, and I'm like, thank you for letting us learn next to you as we're figuring out the science of lawn care business growth. And so as much as this podcast is meant to teach, lawn care guys how to be leaders, it's kind of us sharing our findings that we're constantly thinking about, wondering about, studying what is working in the lawn care business space and what is not. And not just from a single individual, but more across many different people, right? Many different businesses. We've coached up to this point, I don't know how many I've coached in one form or another, over 100 lawn care businesses. We're currently coaching over $50 million in lawn care. And we're just learning. It kind of reminds me, I share this story a lot, but it reminds me of the day that I was sitting next to my brother. And my brother sells those medical devices that go in someone's ankle to surgeons. So he's a medical device salesman. And now if you knew my brother, he is amazing and very talented in his own way, but he was kind of the jock troublemaker in our family. And we're sitting next together at dinner 10 years ago. And he gets a text from a surgeon, the board certified surgeon sends this text. It has 2 pictures of an x-ray. And then it has this message. Hey, Ryan, what do you think I should do on the surgery? I was like, what? What? Huh? Like, you're getting asked what we should do on a surgery? Like, no way. Like, my faith in the medical system is destroyed. There is no possible way. You should be the one that they're asking, right? And just kind of joking, but he goes, no, you don't understand. He said, I see 50 of these cases a year. This surgeon may see 3 or 4. I have just a different perspective that he can't possibly have. And that's sort of what we're striving for here at Lawn Care CEO. We're striving for, hey, how do we take all of the lessons learned from all of the different companies we get a chance to work with? How do we take all of our research and study and thinking and consideration, all of our, like, we look at 40 KPI scorecards from 40 different companies, and we're looking at what's working and what's not working, and that company's cancellation rate's too high, and let's go attempt to bring it down, and what worked to bring it down, and how can we share that with someone else? And so that's the goal. That's what we're doing here at this podcast. That's what we'll do over and over and over again. It will show up in a bunch of different forums. Sometimes we'll get with a guy who's really kind of got it figured out, like our next podcast with Will Hall. we'll say, hey, how did you do it? Like, what's the storyline, right? So it's sort of our way of investigating and learning from people who are really doing it right. Sometimes we'll come and we'll say, hey, we've learned this really powerful lesson. Sometimes we'll be like, I saw this huge mistake in a business, and man, how do we go about avoiding those mistakes moving forward? But more than anything, we want to download and give you as much information as possible from all of the learning that's happening at the Lawn Care CEO to you, all in the spirit of how do we make this more scientific and less, snake oil. I think that sometimes, and it's, it's hard because I'm in the coaching industry and people probably could accuse me of the same thing. And when you're a coach, sometimes you give bad advice. But what I am saying is that sometimes I think that we're a little bit myopic in the sense that, like, we have lawn care business coaching and ideas that are a little bit myopic, meaning one thing worked one time in one place, and we go on and we say everyone should do it this way. And to me, candidly, that's kind of dangerous. It's a little bit snake oily, where it's like, yeah, it worked for me, but it doesn't mean necessarily work for everyone all the time. Like, we need to do our very best to gather as much information as we can, congeal it, compare it, see outliers and anomalies so that we can share great data. And so I share all of that with you just because I want you to know why we're doing this. I want you to understand, if you're going to become a listener of Lawn Care CEO podcast, where we're coming from with all of this. And that's maybe the final part of our story that I'll share is, at the end of the day, Aaron and I are both showed up to this business in a space where we didn't need to make a lot of money for us to have a great lifestyle, if that makes sense. Like, Aaron's got this great lawn care business that's humming. His wife was a vice principal at an elementary school. Like, they were fine financially. And my family is the same. Like, literally a couple of years before I started this, my wife's like, you're a little too young to be retired, right? Because I kind of got into a place where I didn't have to do a ton of work and I could play golf every day for a little while. And so the reason we're coming at this is, obviously we want to create a great business, is what we do, but at the center of it is our purpose. And we recommend that every company works to discover the why you do what you do. Like, the center point, this is it. And, for us, the why is, we talked about it for a long time, and, we just felt like we had learned some things that, if we shared them successfully, could help people skip steps and avoid pain. And over the short time I'd been working with lawn care at the time, I kind of liked them. I liked the beards and the hats and the down to earth nature and the conservative values that usually showed up there. And I was like, man, I want these guys to win. I want these guys to win. And not just win a little. I want them to win big. I want them to win software, Silicon Valley big. And because I believe that if we can help them win big, they're going to go do good with what resources they're given. If I give them extra time and money, I think, compared to all other industries, dentists, doctors, attorneys, like, the lawn care guys are going to do some good if we can give them the education they need and help them get to where they want to go. And so our purpose, we finally landed on this purpose, was to help others to do more good in the world, to help the do-gooders do gooder. And that's why we do this, and why we give away things, and why we give away free calls, and why we will tell the truth on a sales call. All that stuff comes and stems from that purpose that drives us, is to try to help. And the real joy that comes, and we'll share some of these stories as well in our podcast, the real joy that comes is the moment where we get to see some of these folks get to where they want to go. Now, saying all of that is really nice, but now we have to deliver, right? We have to actually figure out the science of how to get someone from point A to point B. And we're not there yet. Not 100%. No way, no how. And I don't know that we'll ever fully arrive, just like medicine never has fully arrived. Not every disease has been eradicated. Some have, but not all. And in the same vein, at Lawn Care CEO, we're going to continue to make mistakes. We're going to continue to evolve. I published a profitability 101 course that's now completely outdated because we've learned a totally different way to price work and a faster, easier way to price work. And not that the old way wouldn't work, but it's just we found a better way. We invented a new model, and we'll continue to invent and create new models. And for the record, if you have great ideas or good models that you feel like we should know about, right? Like little magic secret sauce, and you're willing to give to the greater good of the lawn care community, let us know. Because at the end of the day, I think that if we can help small 1-man, 2-man trucks become 10 and then 50 and then 100, that those companies, those ones who are rooted before they sell out to private equity, those are the ones that I think are going to be able to do the most good. So share. If you're hopefully one of those people that wants to share, and we maybe have you on the podcast. If you wanted to come on the podcast and share something cool, well, let us know. info@lawncareceo.com, and just let us know. Reach out, be a part of the community. So that being said, I'll kind of close this shorter than normal podcast with a little bit of a story, and an invitation. I feel like I'm trying to recruit you to our company. Like, come on, come work for us. No, I'm not trying to do that. What I am trying to recruit you to is two things. Number one, there's a great story that was told by a good friend of mine who was a speaker, and a good one. And he was invited to keynote at this major rah-rah conference. He didn't tell me what it was, but it was one of those conferences where every third word, it's like, rah, cheer, cheer, cheer. And my tens of tens probably heard the story before, but I'm going to share it anyway. And sure enough, right, he gets up on stage, and the crowd goes wild, big music, big backdrop, like the whole show. Crowd goes wild, and this is his opening line. He goes, "There are two kinds of people in this world." Big cheer. Bah. "There are evil people. Bah. And there are stupid people." Bah. And he just goes, "Which one are you?" And that shut him up. Except for a little lady in the front row who just goes, "Are we the stupid ones?" And I just love it. I just love that idea that at the end of the day, and this was his point, and I think it's a fair one. Not that they were dumb, but doesn't it seem like sometimes the evil people are smarter and more strategic? Sometimes the bad guys plot and scheme better than the good guys. And he said, man, we need more good, smart people in the world. Educated, savvy, like strategic, as it says in the good book, right? As wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. Right? That idea. That we have those kinds of people in the world. And if anything, right, that's at the center of what we're trying to do. I remember my son came up to me one day, and he was 17 years old. He and his friend considered themselves a little bit philosophers, and they had this moment where they were chatting, and they were like, "Holy cow, Dad, the world is a total mess. Like, it's a total wreck out there." And he goes, "What are we going to do? Did you know that the world's screwed up?" And we're kind of like, yeah, I know. And he just kind of goes, he goes, "What are we going to do?" And I said, well, and I didn't honestly have a good answer. And then it dawned on me. I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a business called Lawn Care CEO, and I'm going to go help hundreds and thousands of good lawn care business owners become super good and super smart. And they're going to do a ton of good for their employees. They're going to do a ton of good in their communities for their clients. And they're going to then have discretionary time and money to go impact the world in a meaningful way. I'm like, we're going to make a fantastic difference, right, in the world. And I just love it. I love, that's what I'm about. That's what matters to me. And we got to get it right. We got to get the science right. We got to figure it out. We got to understand it. Like right now, we're putting a particularly like big emphasis on how to help guys who are at that $100,000 mark get to 500. Like, how can we make that process simpler? How do we make it faster? How do we get them to the 500K in revenue mark quicker, to where they're out of the field faster? We're super curious. We've been like trudging through CRMs, trying to recommend a good CRM to these guys, which frankly, we don't like any of them at the moment for guys who want to be multi-diverse and fertilization weed control. We're gonna study all that. We'll share it all here. We're gonna talk about and think about how to help companies that are at 3 million, 5 million, trying to scale to 10, trying to make that next big leap. I have some great content around how to build leadership teams and what to do for those leadership teams. Will be great for those who are coming up and getting prepared for those higher levels of leadership and everything in between. So again, Lawn Care CEO podcast, where leaders, lawn care guys learn to be leaders. Where lawn care guys learn to be leaders. So if that's interesting to you, please stick around. Listen, study, learn the vocabulary of leadership, learn the vocabulary of lawn care leadership. I'll close on this thought. One of the things that to me is maybe the most so one of my first jobs is I was a language teacher at a language school in Utah. And we would teach Spanish. I was teaching Spanish at the time. And so I've studied language a lot, and this particularly language acquisition. And since I've started that process, for those of you who've learned another language, there's a moment where where fluency clicks in. So I'm a semi-fluent. I think people would probably call me a fluent Spanish speaker in addition to English. But the reason I share that is because there's a moment when you're learning a language where it goes from, you see a table, and then you go, what's the Spanish word for table? Mesa. Mesa. Table, mesa. And then fluency is when you see the table and you just hear the word mesa in your mind. You just skip straight to mesa. You don't have to go through the English. In similar fashion, learning leadership is becoming fluent in the language of leadership. And so you want to get there faster. You listen to podcasts like this that will speak leadership to you for hours and hours and hours, lawn care leadership over and over and over again. Listen to other great podcasts that are out there. They're great ideas. Read great books, listen to great books, fill your mind with the language of leadership so that when a problem faces your business, instead of going, what did Dan say I should do again on that? Or what's Simon Sinek or Stephen Covey say I should do? And then you figure it out and then you kind of try to apply it. But instead you become fluent where immediately the problem surfaces and immediately your thought knows what to do. That's my dream for you guys. Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. If that sounds good to you, if you're interested in that kind of thing, welcome to the Lawn Care CEO podcast. And as always, do more good.